Yeah, we're already live, motherfucker.
What up, Monkey? Say hi to everybody. Oh, shit. Now they know where you live, man.
The coffee shall be brewing and making noises, but that's fine because we'll talk over it.
Sure. Well, they probably cannot hear it anyway.
I'm sure they can hear it for sure.
Okay, now
right.
position
So 3,
properly.
2, 1, black screen. Hello, everybody. Episode 19 of the wrap-up. We have patch news, patch reveals, patch speculation, some drama, all packed in for today. But first, a message from our sponsor, Flame.
Do you want to have a clean butthole? Well, you need to use soap.
Our sponsor was supposed to be the syncing of the microphone and stuff. Can you please help us? Are we synced enough from our lips to the sound? Please.
I was gonna say the butthole.
Don't say that, man. It's dangerous to say that.
There is an interesting psychological discussion that improvising for the first couple of seconds led me to make a butthole joke.
Yeah, I know.
There's something there underlying. I do not want to explore that.
I'm telling you guys, you know, a regular therapist is not enough for Flame. He needs a team.
I don't have the money for what.
He needs like specialized observation around the clock. You know, people making reports and stuff. You know, sending it back to NASA. It's complicated. All right. So I'm getting confirmation here from YouTube chat. I can see the chat. I can see both chats. It's amazing. Thank you guys. So we're good. We're good with the syncing and stuff.
Michelle Stevens says, we've learned a lot from the frustration of players with borrowed power and we'll do better going forward. Ian, probably.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna get to that because obviously there's a lot of stuff regarding 11.1.7. It comes back with things that we don't know for sure what they are. We don't have numbers. We don't have specifics. We only have that preview that they dropped and what people kind of like determined in the past. But there are a couple of things that are much more clear now, specifically to where we're going in 11.1. We're going to get to that and what does that mean for the Warcraft Direct that is coming in 2 weeks. So I guess might as well we just kick it off because, you know, we did start earlier today. Hopefully that's okay. So we're gonna get into the 11.1.7 reveal, I would say. All right.
Yes, sir.
So right off the bat, I have to say there's a new zone coming in the new patch.
Surprise! That's to be expected.
But this new zone is not actually that new. This is actually part of a map from BFA that was never used. Now, I have no problem with that. If they still have assets hanging around that they never got to use and make it work for some purpose, that's fine.
Did they say this? I didn't watch the whole review.
Data mined, it's fine. It's there. Okay. It was in the BFA files. And lots of other things are also like from previous expansions going into this new patch, which again, I'm okay. It's like the feeling that they are kind of like left without fresh ideas is somewhere. We're going to talk about it. But as far as them having something just laying around and making content out of it, I'm all fine with it. Okay?
I mean, there's something to be talked about, new ideas, because I think this is fine.
Yeah, okay. Let's read from their post. Okay, so the War Within 11.0.7 content update will be available on the PTR today. It's starting today. It's going to be up and running on the PTR. Set your sights on the Siren Isle. This is how they call this new zone, right? And sail into a world of mystery and mayhem with the War Within 11.0.7 content update. Sail onto the player test run to experience the adventures ahead and provide your feedback on the official forums, which hopefully they will do something with that feedback. Face old enemies and unravel new mysteries. A new currency.
Dude, I was thinking like I have to scroll 3 times. I want to scroll 4 times through my currency tab to see all of them.
I'm telling you, man, somebody in that team has a big hard-on for currencies. I don't know who, I don't know why, but I'll find you, and when I'll do, I cannot say it on Twitch or YouTube.
There's something to be said about an extra currency because they cannot use the same thing since we can acquire it before going into the content. So I understand it, but they need to find something that can be consistent across the patches.
Yeah, it's a theme here that the fresh ideas. I don't know where they are.
All right, we're going with it. All right, cool.
But regardless, so a new currency, the Flame Blessed Iron.
I didn't give them
yeah, trademark.
Consent.
Okay, so the Flame Blessed Iron is available to trade for items like mounts, pets, gear, and transmogs, as well as upgrades for a powerful new ring, Circe's Circlet, which can be found by players. Flame Blessed Iron is also used to spawn one of the 3 event bosses on the island, giving players an additional opportunity to earn unique rewards. Add some spark to your adventure when you collect items across the Siren Isle to help release Tharir, Eye of the Siren, an electrifying Stormcrow mount from its bonds. Now the mount is cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. I saw it in the trailer as well.
Oh my god, it's not a cartoony mount. Yes,
it's not. No, and this was like in the files in the data mining for quite a while. Yeah, it's. I mean, mounts in new content is always good, but there's
it's probably going to be more than just one, I would imagine.
Yeah. Now we have seen the trailer for the patch. Well, it wasn't necessarily a trailer. It's more like a preview where they talked about the activities you're gonna have over there. It's gonna be very lighthearted. Okay, it's not gonna be like super impactful gameplay wise. Sure, there's gonna be new things to do. That's always good.
Sure.
You're not gonna be stuck in this loop all the time, but the thing is, this patch is probably going to keep on going up until, I don't know, probably February, March or something like that.
Yeah, I'm guessing until the 11.1,
yeah. Timeless Al Remastered, I don't think so. No, Timeless Al was a beautiful thing. So, Michelle said so in the comments. I mean, in order to get to the level or maybe the impact that Timeless Al had back in MoB, they have to do a lot more than this. Now, let's see what other things we can expect. All right, so Plunderstorm, not Thunderstorm. It's coming back, which is really cool. We loved Plunderstorm.
Not everybody loved
Plunderstorm. I know not everybody loved it, but once again, we stated what we stated back in March this year. Listen, we had a blast playing this.
I'm so glad they're bringing it back.
Yeah, so the Battle Royale inspired event comes back for a limited time early in 2025. Keklik returns to pillage the Arathi Highlands, join the crew, fight to be the best pirate standing, and grab all the plunder you can get your hands on loot from the new Plunder store, including new and returning transmogs and mounts. So this is going to be another way to
That's
get
cool.
more.
Hope they add like new stuff as well and more fleshed out reward system. I feel like that's gonna be.
All right, story-wise, explore the fate of the Kirin Tor, delve into the aftermath of the Dalaran's fall in the War Within Epilogue questline. The Kirin Tor must confront their past mistakes and decide on the future course of their people. I find this really cool. I'm interested. I'm more interested in this, to be honest.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Also the story prologue for the 11.1 campaign. Continue the story of the War Within and uncover a familiar face in the darkness. I wonder who could it be?
Iridikron?
Who knows? I mean, how familiar is Iridikron's face? We didn't really see him that much, except for that one dungeon that never dropped a trinket and then a dagger. The turbulent Timeways return. So the Timeways shudder once again. Explore time-walking dungeons from past expansions each week to earn heroic rewards. Those who master the Timeways again will be rewarded with the timely Buzzbee skywriting mount. So this is from their post, and we also saw the preview.
Sure.
And there is... So if I can take you back a little bit into Dragonflight, 10.0.7 was very similar in the sense that you did have a new zone to go to. It was very similar to the rest of it. And over there you had activities like the Skara Vault. Which this time is different. This time is going to be with events. There are going to be 3 factions there, the Goblins, the Earthen, and the Arathi. You're going to contribute to their excavation efforts or whatever, and all of these excavation efforts will lead to like opening some caves where you fight big baddies or whatever. Now you do all of this because you do want that new currency to get this new ring.
Yes. I would imagine it's similar to the Skara ring.
It's actually, yes. It's basically the same thing from what I understand, because... so we're getting into it, all right? We're getting into it. So after this was announced, it's basically like people were up in arms, like, oh my God, borrowed power, once again, borrowed power. And I remember the exact same feeling we had.
It was the exact same conversation. But okay.
Exactly.
So
say it, Flame, say it. You have something to say?
This is interesting because I don't know all of the details of the patch, and I'm going to find out with you guys who also probably don't know some of the details. In terms of the barrel power, I actually don't mind, because what else are we going to do until February, man? We have to have something to do, some kind of progression to go towards if this is going to last until February, which is still, I think, a little bit too long, but I guess that that would be about 5 months of this tier, which is about as much as we would have for a raid tier before the new patch essentially launches. Because right now, I mean, most people are probably done with the raid or close to being done with the raids, and the majority of that progress, we're probably still going to be doing it for like a month or two. But then we still have about 2 months still of what are we going to do in the game.
Listen, man, I mean, in terms of like timing, it's kind of the same thing as in Dragonflight.
Sure.
I mean, 10.1 came out in March, I believe. We had 10.07 up until that point. We had the ring, we had those multiple gems. So it's kind of like on par. Now, I do feel it is a little bit too much to expand the first patch like this, but on the other hand, if they're going to also bring Plunderstorm, is if we still have up until January all of this celebration thing going on, you know, with the bronze, people are still going to farm their bronze up until the 5th of January. Then you're going to have Plunderstorm hitting it up. Then you're also going to have this grind for the ring. But the point was, after they announced this, and you would look at, once again, forums, Reddit, even the comment section on Wowhead.
Is it spicy?
Yeah, but it's like people like complaining, oh my God, Power is back. They said they're never going to bring this. And I just want to underline, we had the same reaction and feeling back in 10.0.7, back in Dragonflight, where yes, you remember we had that ring. We're going to talk about it, but let's see what they say, because it's interesting to read what they said about it. So, the ring will be available for players to earn while on the Siren Island, offers a variety of different powers and benefits beyond a typical legendary ring. Now, it's more powerful than a typical legendary ring. Here's what we know so far. The ring comes equipped with 3 gem sockets. Okay. Each socket will slot different types of gems found on the Siren Isle, providing different benefits depending on the gem. The ring will be available to use in all types of content, not just the Siren Isle. Now, according to the 11.0.7 video, Blizzard intends for the ring to be fairly strong for the current seasonal content and help serve as a leadway into new seasonal content in the future. So this will not only be a power grind for the remainder of the patch, but it's also going to be pretty relevant in 11.1. Now, how long is that going to take? If I'm not mistaken, I may be mistaken, don't quote me on this, but I believe they said something very similar about the previous ring in Dragonflight, and it never happened. Like, once the patch hit, it was relevant for 1 week, and then poof, bomb, because they nerfed it a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So Mikey J is saying something that I 100% was thinking about, and I was kind of coping towards it. It sounds, and this reminds me of the MOP remix way of doing gear with gems, where that can continuously evolve and progress through the season.
If that would be the case, I would be very surprised.
I mean, I don't think we know exactly how this will all be implemented, right? It's still too early. We just had the PTR release today, I guess.
The PTR is not yet live.
Okay, so we don't know.
Until we came to the office and started doing this shit, it wasn't there.
Because what you said at the beginning definitely rings true. It's like, oh my God, this is the exact same thing we've had in 10.07. Are we just gonna get the 10.07 patch of each expansion? Is it gonna be another ring with more sockets to get into?
It's funny you say that, because I took the time to show you exactly what we're talking about here.
Oh shit! There you go. There it is.
Because if people like forgot what was the ring back in Dragonflight, it was the Onyx Amulet.
You know what? The problem that I heard people say have the most with the Onyx Amulet was mostly because it wasn't balanced across the board for all specs.
Exactly, and it's gonna be the same thing. I mean, if you take a note out of what's happening now with the balance in the War Within,
that's oh my God, that's what I'm saying, because some of the stuff that we've had in the Onyx Amulet was pretty vanilla, just procs of damage and stuff, and that's obviously not gonna scale the same for everybody. If we have stats, unless you have your pick of the stats, then it's obviously not going to scale the same for everybody. If we're going to have MOP Remix, though, those went haywire. That was way too strong, but if that's what they're saying, right? It's going to be
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be scalable. Sure, I can see it.
It has to be if they want it to be relevant for future seasons, right?
Well, that's the thing. The wording on it, we now just speculating, and we're like kind of like pinpointing things we think it might be, but we don't know, because we don't have like actual numbers. What we have is an example from the past, and it's exactly the same thing. This was a ring. It had 3 gem sockets. You put like multiple types of gems. I picked up some examples of the previous gems here, just to give you a look. I'm not sure this is going to be the same, but I'm expecting something in the lines of this, because I remember these, because that's when the Red Paladin rework came in, and I switched to Red Paladin that time, and the ring was pretty good, and I remember a couple of these being like super good. So you can, like, just reading a couple of the past ones, for the Entropic Feldstone, the fire damage dealt by primordial stones is increased by 60% and is now chaos damage. This was a stone that would be linked to others. And if you remember, we had the Grief Torch and all of those who had fire damage. So it was a combination there. You had the Necromantic Dead Stone. This time they were called stones, not gems, but it's the same thing, guys, okay? So once every minute, moving near a corpse grants and equip effects of the serious blood, cold, frost, and pestilent plague stones for 25 seconds. Already having one of these effects instead increases its effectiveness by 75%. So very much playing into each other's. Yeah, this is the pestilent plague stone. It's one example for the necromantic dead stone. The last one, dealing damage, has a chance to infect the target with a plague that spreads to nearby enemies, dealing blah 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 nature damage over 9 seconds. So you had these combinations, the synergies between them, which was nice. And once again, there's this whole concept of, oh my god, they're bringing back borrowed power. Now, I don't want to talk about borrowed power as a concept necessarily. I think we smoked this subject so many times. It
makes sense in English.
Yeah. But no, listen. What I think this is actually good for is the remaining player base, I would say, like the big majority of the player base, like not us, well, probably us as well, but this is another boost in power to like have people get like on top of like that buff you get from the raid, like you get like that 2% and
the urban finery thing. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. On top of that, this is gonna be another boost to like just push people to maybe get that up ahead of the curve, or maybe even cutting edge, you know, something. So I can see the value on this, like for the grander player base. Okay, now you wouldn't have people who are, you know, have pushed so far, and people who are a little bit more hardcore will probably hate this because it's yet another grind to go for, and they have to get it.
Well, you say that.
I say this, Flame. Yes.
What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We're already maxed out on eye level. Like if we're gonna keep playing, we only have the options for all. So I think this is normally fine. And sure, you can argue about the borrow power stuff, but this is just yet another trinket. It could be a mini tier so that you go for. It depends, of course, how they implement it. So that it's not the underworld. It's not Covenant. It's not Azurite gear. It's not replacing a core mechanic of the game. It's just a ring, and I think that's fine. And they have to do this because if they wouldn't have gone through all of this and gave us the ring and the time walking dungeons as well, I do admit, then you wouldn't have had anything to do, because the majority of the player base, whether we like to admit it or not, or at least the vocal ones, they want some kind of practical reason for them to play WoW. They don't care about, you can just have fun and shoot rabbits through a hole or whatever. No, they want gear, they want eye level, they want player power to keep increasing. So this was inevitable to happen. Otherwise, they would have had to like raise the eye level of the overall gear once again, myth track 8 out of 8 or whatever, to give players a reason to log in, because otherwise there's not much to log in for, except for a couple of daily activities that you can probably, like you said, smoke in about a week.
That's true, and I get it, but that doesn't negate the fact that a lot of people are once again up in arms. I think like at this point, I think a lot of people just are waiting like with a thirst to jump at Blizzard's neck whenever they do anything.
Yeah.
At this point. So again, I'm not the biggest fan of borrowed power the way Blizzard introduced it in the past. I am a fan of borrowed power. I love the concept of continuously progressing. The way they implemented this back in the day, we talked about it, it's not fine. Now this, we already know how this worked, because it's probably going to be more or less the same system. It's not, well, what are you going to do, Reforged?
The Onyx Annulet wasn't bad. The problem with it was that it was boring because the gems weren't buffed enough for them to be interesting.
Well, they did nerf a couple of them.
Yeah, well, I remember because I was swapping to a main Warlock at the time, and it was pretty a DPS loss to use this, if I recall, on Demonology. So I wasn't that interested. I didn't actually engage with the 1007 content. And it depends on how they implement the socketing system. Is it interesting? Can I just, okay, this dungeon wants poison damage, let's do the poison thing, or whatever that is. We're using these examples. That is, if they make it interesting, if they make it like a mini hero talent, like we're changing this and that for this dungeon to be a little bit more interesting, but it would have to be impactful, and that's why what their words also ring strong with. We want this to be stronger than your average legendary ring, which is not saying much. That doesn't say anything.
I mean, it's a strong statement. It's a bold statement, and I've heard a lot of these statements in the past and didn't really came through as they would.
That is true.
Listen, the concept of it, I really don't mind it. But in fact, I can definitely see it as that plus I was talking about, just an extra kick in the nuts to like move forward and get your whatever goal you have in the game, push that hierarchy or whatever. It's another increase in power on top of the gear you already work for. That's fine. I love that shit. What I'm concerned about is, as always, if they do want to do this and if they do want to have more synergies between it and be a leadway into the next patch, the tuning on these effects, as boring as they may be, I cannot trust them with this because the tuning is so all over the place right now.
The whole patch will live and die based off of this system because there's a fair criticism to say that this is just yet something that they've already done before, so it's not that interesting. However, it can be a simple system that they've done before if they implement it properly. And the reason why WoW Remix is such a good, MoP Remix is such a good example is because the whole end game of that event breathed on the rings and the sockets being interesting, and the sockets that we had there were interesting. There were either spells from different classes. There were big procs. It was crazy. It was way too much.
Very crazy. I don't see this happening in.
It's probably not that,
retail.
but they have to take a lesson from that page and just say, okay, this is gonna be really strong. We're not gonna, because if you remember, the Onyx Amulet also was. You had to craft, you have to farm all of these annoying mats and craft it with like 10 vendors to get the thing.
It was super annoying.
It was very annoying. If they don't do that, if they're just like, oh, this is it, just put the stones in.
I mean, from the wording, I'm hoping it's based on that new currency, the Flame Iron, whatever, your trademark on it. If that is the case, then it's going to be Gucci. I mean, fine, just don't make overly... Because you remember, we have to farm those Iskero vaults, and they were interesting at the time when you did them, like the first couple of runs, but then they became very boring. You had to farm those keys all over the place, farm all of the rares. It became a chore like typical, in the past, WoW.
They have to focus on the actual activity being fun, except and not of the actual barrier going into the activity, which is what the problem with Onyx Amulet was. Actually getting it was annoying, and after you had it, it was boring. That was the problem. So if we can easily get this Cersei circlet thing, and then we can just play with the powers, upgrade the powers, find new powers, and just actually engage with the system day one, then that's already an improvement over the Onyx Amulet. In terms of, the overall feedback and reception, I think this will definitely work better because they have proven in the past that whenever they do systems like these with low barrier of entry, people will engage with it a little bit more.
Yeah. Overall, it's fine. I just want to give a big shout out to Yahtzee Gaming for subscribing like 20 months, baby. This is like almost OG stat, 29 months and on a streak of 21 months. So thank you, Yahtzee. We see it there, fam. We see it. Back to the topic at hand. Now, looking at this 11.17 patch overall, right? So you have this new zone, which is not really that new. It's just a
it's fine.
An asset that was never used. Let me just be clear. I like the look of it. I like this whole idea of an island where you have. I think you're gonna have Naga coming in, so the mobs will be rotating. The mobs that will populate the isle will rotate on a weekly basis.
Naga, Vrykul, and was something else.
And pirates, monkey pirates, or something like that. Yeah. So I find that really cool. I cannot not notice that it's. I don't know, man. It feels not new. It feels that we already been through this. So, because I
know what you're saying. So here's a counterpoint that I'm curious to know what you think about it. It's not new, sure, but is new always better? Because we keep having new stuff every patch, and it's kind of hard to care about the new stuff. If we have a new race every patch, a new zone with totally new template, totally new trees, and totally new mobs, it always feels like
but then those are not new in that sense. You're already familiar with everything like that. And in terms of like the new zone, it's not really. It's a mini zone. It's very, very compact. It's not like you get in a new zone as in a big patch. It's very small. If you look at the previous, like, I don't know how, if you're gonna go with flying mounts, skywriting and stuff, you're gonna like just traverse it in a couple of seconds. It's not about that. It's the fact that, like, philosophically, I wanted some other activity, something fresh, something really cool. Because when they first put this back in Dragonflight, that was, interesting. Okay, we have, a new mini zone, we have activities to do there.
But we've already done that, yeah.
Yeah, so the mechanics of it seem like, man, we're fresh our ideas. Let's just do what we did in 10.07 once again. And I think, because I don't mind having more stuff to do. That's okay. And for a 0.7 patch, it's probably going to come with a lot of tuning as well. So
that's the second thing that I wanted to talk about. Yeah,
nothing has been announced. Probably some reworks that if they're going to keep on, because that was when Red Paladin rework happened. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff we can expect on that side. But in terms of like how this patch is being delivered and how it's going to work, it just feels for me kind of the same old thing. It's very formulaic, exactly.
It's what we've had so far. So this kind of encapsulates my initial approach and reception towards this patch. I've seen a little bit of the reveal and I couldn't watch the rest of it because it just felt more of the same. Obviously, it's a fat dose of cynicism and skepticism because, of course, they can prove me wrong. But it really revolves around how they implement this. Because we've had similar thoughts about mob premix, and once we hit it, it was like, oh my god, this is the best thing. For me personally, it created a big love for Mists of Pandaria as an expansion, for the Pandaren race, for the monk class, for all of it, that meant that way. So they can still do this and make, chasing a particular ring, socketing, there's a lot of RPG potential here that they need to do. But once again, we're talking about speculations and how they will implement this. We will probably know more once the PTR servers are up.
That also the fact that it was kind of like semi-expected to be announced on the Warcraft Direct. I'm pretty happy they didn't do that because that will leave a lot of room for
that was what Direct. I was mostly excited about. So, we're getting this quick.
Yeah, so we basically, we talked about the 11.1 happening last week. Now we can dive a little bit deeper on it.
All right.
Because basically, like when this was first announced, I'm going to reiterate what I said last week. There was this, during the presentation, celebrating 30 years of Warcraft and look ahead at what's next. I told you what's next is a very key phrase here because that's what they always used on BlizzCon and on the panels and all of that. And also there was that tweet from Holly Longdale, which was basically saying that, hey guys, there's a lot of stuff we got to see and stuff. So apart from what we know, there's going to be the concert that you went to. There's going to be a lot of celebratory things or whatever. This is basically the replacement of BlizzCon when they announced
for
stuff.
Warcraft.
Yeah. So if you would put this back in time, and we did this last week, going to do this exercise again. When they did BlizzCon in 2018, BFA was already out. They couldn't possibly announce a next expansion. We were just in BFA. That was in November. What did they announce? They announced 8.1. All right. So this is the time where we will see what 11.1 will be about.
I don't think anybody doubts the fact that we're going to have 11.1 news.
They will not doubt. So you would imagine, because a lot of people speculated that, man, this is going to be too early, man. They're going to announce 11.0.7. No. See, this is the thing. I'm happy this has happened.
You have to have like a broader perspective over the course of the content, considering that we knew about the War Within for almost a year now, and we've been in the War Within content, not everybody, but kind of everybody for like 5 to 6 months now, ever since beta was open. We were making videos at the very least, and every content creator was almost already in, so people knew. People who are engaging online with this stuff, they already knew about War Within before it launched, so it's not like the expansion is really fresh, like, oh my god, I just logged in the other day in the expansion for the first time. No, you knew about it, so it's not too early to showcase it. What I am curious about is how big is 11.1 as a patch, because it is at Warcraft Direct, it is at 20 years of WoW, 30 years of Warcraft.
You say that, but this will probably launch somewhere in March.
Yeah, no, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the announcements. They have to make it big. They have to make it sure it's a 0.1 patch, but it has to be a big patch.
When I first started looking at what was data mine regarding this and what was speculating on it, and this is not new news, but we did have a couple of things, right? So in the 11.0.5 dialogues and stay a while quests or whatever, when you finish a quest, you have that stay a while option to listen to some dialogue. So we had Skagit here talking about finding a new island with a crystal over there.
That has to be Sirens.
Now we know it's Sirens, but people speculate, oh my god, we're going into the Undermine for the goblins, going to be that raid, we're going to fight Galwick. So the speculation was 11.1 is going to be another underground place. And I was a little bit deflated because of that, because, as much as I love the War Within zones, it felt too much like Dragonfly. Like, we had Zaralak Caverns as 10.1. We're gonna go into the Undermine, another underground place, and I don't find it really appealing to find goblins.
If they did that, yes. I feel like what we have right now in the War Within is perfect in terms of like underground zones. The way
totally different, yes, totally
okay.
different because there's light.
I do hope they're not doing yet an underground race with yet another mole people. Oh.
No. But the thing is, like everybody was speculating prior to us knowing about 11.0.7. Everybody was speculating because of these dialogues, because there was Skagit, there was like the Earthen were talking about this, the Arathi, only to find out that everything on this was about 11.0.7, which
kind of like the Plunderstorm logo, the Plunderstorm little pirate flag.
Yeah.
How wild were those speculations?
That was pretty wild, but. Now that we know it's not the case, so we're not necessarily going into the Undermine of fighting goblins or, last boss Galawix or whatever. I mean, I would love to fight Galawix as a last boss, don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't, I mean, when I first seen this, and I also believe, like, based on these little dialogues, I was like, oh my god, we're actually going in something goblin-y like. It didn't really feel connected to what the hell was happening in War Within, kind of.
Not in 11.1, no. Maybe 11.07, alternate universe.
Yeah,
sure.
But that does leave now a lot of room of questioning. Like, what is 11.1 going to be about?
What is the story? True.
Where are we going and what is going to happen? Now, I have some hopes, okay? So just looking past what happened in the War Within and the stories and whatever, I noted down here, my obvious hope would definitely be either the origin place of the Arathi from Hollowfall, because we know that their empire is not on any maps currently known to us. And Hollowfall is just like the place they settled in, okay? So it's not their home, all right?
It's part of their empire, the ones that we have in Hollowfall, right? It's not their whole empire there.
It's nothing, they just settled there.
Yeah.
They just settled there, it's nothing like that. So there's that, plus... I don't know if you remember that quest with the peculiar fish.
Yeah, of course I remember.
Okay, so that is still in Hollowfall, right? So if you remember, that fish descended into the Black Sea, and okay, I have some pictures here.
I know exactly what you're gonna show. I remember vividly.
I think this is very speculative, and it's my hopes. Okay, so it's either like going into the actual empire of the Arathi, or something close to that and actually traversing this sea or going into the actual sea, because he mentions about a sea that's under the sea where if you want to go in, make sure to bring a light. And that was very voidy. That was basically, all the things void 100%.
I mean, even how the fish transforms. I thought that's what you're gonna show. How the fish transforms into the
maybe
big.
Some people didn't do it, and
Yeah, that's also. By the way, that's a big. I really recommend. I'm not gonna say anything if you haven't done this quest. Do yourself a favor after you're done watching our stream. Go do the peculiar fish questline in Hollowfall. You'll see it. You can wowhead it anyway, because the end of it is so gnarly. And if they go there, there's a lot of potential content that they can explore, and it would finally tie into something. Like the problem that I have with these patches, and the problem that I had with 10.1, is that they take us into these zones with the Nifim. It so disconnects me from the immersiveness of WoW when you introduce me to like this totally broken zone that has no connection to the actual expansion, to these people that make no sense because you thought of them like last minute and you're trying to figure out a way to explain their existence in the world because they weren't there before. Like whenever they do stuff like this, it just suspends my disbelief on their world building when it comes to telling the story of the War Within. So I hope they don't do that, and I hope they definitely tie it to the Arathi, because if you really think about it, the Nerubian story has kind of completed, right? The Earthen story has completed before the Nerubian started. So the only loose end in actually exploring the richness of the story that they've actually created is with the Arathi people, is with Beladar or Belredar or whatever, is with what happens with Anduin, what happens with, I forgot her name.
Farron is her name.
Farron Lothar.
That, and also, we don't really have any closure with Xal'atath. Now, where could she possibly go outside of a new zone that is actually void inspired? And this is why I feel like when the fish says that, okay, there is a city, there's a sea under the sea where you have to bring your light in order to go in, that it's obviously about the darkness, the void. And it would make sense for Xal'atath to be somewhere around there, because we haven't finished with her. Obviously, we're going to keep on seeing her probably up until midnight. And it's close to Hollowfall. And as Flame mentioned, it will definitely tie in a couple of like loose ends regarding Anduin, Farron, and everything that's happening. Plus, I feel like there was such a cool feedback from people regarding Hollowfall as a zone, and everybody that was in there, you know, the characters, the population, everything like that. I feel it's like it would be such a big win for 11.1 to take us there. I don't know what rate that would entitle, but it would be, at least for me, it would be my biggest copium for 11.1.
There's also something that actually Lewis is saying right now in chat that's very interesting that we actually haven't touched about is the Haranir trolls and the whole roots system.
Yeah, there's also that.
So please expand on these new races instead of giving us another new stuff, another new faction.
I mean, there's also, okay, so if you're going to go there, it's interesting because those trolls were actually featured in the cinematic of War Within.
The story's like...
And I was so excited. Remember, I was so excited, like actually going in, and it ended up so abruptly. It's like, wait a minute, I want more. I'm interested. What is this?
I mean, their story, it depends on... So this whole thing revolves around Zeltath's plan, which obviously we don't know what it is, because... I'm really thinking hard, because I've done all the quests, all the stories, and I've listened to all the dialogues. I'm really thinking hard and not really realizing what was Zeltath's plan for the Nerubians.
Why did she use them? I think like just use them. I think her plans were a little bit shattered because they didn't really deliver for their purpose.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure it was something like she behind the scenes she used them as a distraction to do something. We don't know what that something is.
Hate that. No, I would go for the story where her initial plan failed and she retreated. Because if we're gonna go once again and in the grand scheme of things. This was just a setback. I have bigger plans already. No, I hate that when they did that with the jailer.
But that's no. What you're saying is the actual setback. If her whole plan was to, you know, the way Iridikron kind of led us around to get the Dark Heart, and that if that's she had a purpose, except because if her purpose was just to stall us, to buy time, that's a very poor plan, considering that we as a nation.
She failed. Her plan A failed. I'm just saying so. When we got rid of Queen Azorek, she basically not admitted, but kind of like dismissed her like it meant nothing.
Fair. If it's right. If that's what it is, that's fine. But then she really starts to lose a lot of her authority as a villain. If she failed that easily, I mean, it kind of going into a separate discussion here. But in regards to the Haranir trolls and the roots all over there, like if you look up in that zone, you can clearly see, or at least speculate, there's some tree above us. Those are like big ass roots coming down. Sure.
There's people talking about a different world tree over there, so that could possibly
where would that
also
tree be? Because
where
in the middle
would
of
it lead
the sea.
off? Exactly. And where is the other part of the crystal going out?
That's what's interesting. That's what they can explore because it's
11.1.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery where that could lead. It could lead and if you want to create new worlds within the worlds, and that would be the Haranir trolls.
Then got you right on the spot.
Then you plant the seeds for it, right? Figuratively and literally in this case, where you can actually, what happened with the trolls? They were talking about all of this stuff, all of this, their world is thought out. They're druids of the roost. They're not supposed to be seen in their trollish form. They're supposed to be always in their shape-shifting form. Maybe this can expand a different version of druidism outside of the Cenarian circle and outside of what, you know, the Night Elves and the Torrents have. That could be a lot of potential content. We're, again, speculating and we're kind of like grasping at straws here. But hopefully they go into this route when it comes to future patches of WoW and not just, we just need a new zone, we need a new faction, just give them all people. They're underground. That's going to make sense, right?
Yeah. But all these sound way better than actually going into an undermine type zone with goblins
for sure.
and stuff.
That can also be cool because if they...
Here we go.
No, not as an 11.1 patch, motherfucker. It's for actual content. Remember Motherlode? That was a really cool dungeon. And that's what you get if you take goblins, make a city or make a living world out of them and put cool stuff. It's cool-ass robots, goofy bombs, blowing a lot. That can be 11.1.5 or whatever. Not as a whole zone, not as a patch, but as
even
content.
as a zone, it would be interesting. But if you're going to base like a big-ass patch, 11.1... just purely on that, for me, it feels disconnected because I didn't really interact that much with goblins apart from a couple of like minor quests. We're definitely going to interact a lot more on the 11.8.7 patch, but
again build towards it. Not a whole patch for sure, but build towards it where, you know, every race has such a rich background. Just give us more of the stuff. Give us more goblin stuff. Give us more earthen stuff. Give us more Arathi stuff. Give us stuff that already exists in the world. Build on it and make us care about the world more instead of just constantly adding more new things.
But we're talking about 11.1 speculation here on where we're going and what the story is. What do you think the raid will be, man? What do you think?
That's why I'm saying that it all revolves around Xel'Tath's plan, because it feels like it's over. It feels like we've stopped her, right?
It's not over.
Obviously, it's not over.
I mean, you
man,
saw her feet, man. It's definitely not over.
But I'm saying, like, if it's like you're saying that she failed, then good, we won.
I think she's gonna be absent for a while. I think 11.1 will not have her necessarily. And if they do go to an origin of the Arathi Empire, from what I may be mistaken here, but from what I understood, the Emperor is kind of like a nasty dude, kind of like a fanatical type. So there might be some seeds over there. I would like. If there was to be like to be taken a sidestep from the actual Xel'Tath situation and actually deal with the Arathis and probably
that would be
transform the Arathis into our biggest allies, and then the 0.2 patch will actually be us, going. We got rid of the Emperor. That's gonna be the raid, all right. And we go with these new Arathi people and fighting whatever we need to fight in 0.2, whatever that may be.
You know what 11.1 can be about? Building up on what you're saying about the Arathi, it could be Anduin's culmination story.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you have to put Anduin there.
Anduin is
finally a red paladin. Anduin, bitches.
Anduin is on his hero journey, and he's now stepping in. It's like, oh, I'm finally finding out the way to actually become the new me. Obviously, that happened with Khadgar, but he has to have like this final obstacle to finally embrace his past, embrace himself as a person, and lead the alliance or whatever he's going to be leading on to the future, hopefully into Midnight, right? So he's going to need a foil. We need an enemy.
Or a tin foil.
Or it could be this evil version of the human.
I'm sorry.
It could be this evil emperor or whatever, because obviously the Arathi are very in tune with the light. So it can be like, oh, you can have bad light and good light. And Anduin is going to spearhead the good version of the light forward, defeat this emperor, unite the Arathi with the humans and whatever. And then we actually have a foothold going into the story, into whatever Xel'Tath's cooking up, or the Crown Plus. Because, you mentioned they said that familiar face. Maybe that's the new enemy. Maybe that's the new...
Yeah, well, if they do that, then definitely we'll need another rework for Red Paladins, because obviously...
you want that rework, man. You want a reason to play
I mean, Anduin is going to be a Red Paladin, like, assumed, like, responsible. Okay, now I declare my allegiance to the Red Paladin Brotherhood.
Pressed change specialization.
That's what happens when you love Red Paladin so much. And you have to have, like... I didn't really feel Anduin, the priest version. I definitely feel a lot more this warrior-y type.
Well, obviously, since BFA, he's been fighting as a warrior in combat and kind of like tapping the light here and there, kind of like a priest. But obviously, that would just mean he's a paladin. I didn't really feel the paladin-y vibe from him. The way that
not yet, but
not yet. Not how Turalian brings the paladin to life. Not even how not Turalian, sorry, Tyrion. But not even how Turalian brings the paladin to the battlefield. Right? I feel like Anduin is still kind of learning, still like a priest that just went to the gym and is able to.
He found the sword.
Yeah, he found. That's exactly how.
What do you do with this?
Look at the combat scenes. Look at his dialogues. The way he's engaging with Saurfang back in BFA, and the way he was fighting in Shadowlands, and the way he kind of is now. He's just fighting like a warrior. When you do the little quest lines, when the Nerubians break through the wall and he's down there and you leave him behind, right? He just feels like a warrior. It doesn't feel like so. It's there. The journey is coming to its fruition, and he's becoming an actual fucking Red Paladin.
Hopefully, people are saying he's going to become a holy paladin. I doubt it is going to become a holy paladin. But okay, so we can speculate on what the raid will be. I'm hoping it's going to be 10 bosses. What do you think? So let's play this game, all right? So we're going into the original Arathian Empire, right?
That is the last raid. It's going to be their emperor as the last boss. It's going to be a raid full of paladins.
All right. Now, in theme of that, what do you think the Mythic Plus dungeon pool will be?
Well, Priory of the Sacred Flame, friend, because that's the dungeon that hasn't made it into.
That's so obvious. Some others, please.
But the others. How about Scarlet Monastery?
That's what I was going
Yeah,
with,
boy,
baby.
that's what I'm talking about.
Because like we did have this like celebratory situation happen with the tuning and all of that.
Time walking of the dead mines and all of that.
Yep. And listen, man, I don't know about you guys. I know it's gonna be a shit show. I know it's gonna be bad. But I so want those classic vanilla dungeons in Mythic Plus, man. Just for the fuck of it. Just for bashing our heads and dying in frustration of all the bugs and the tuning. It's not even that vanilla
anymore because it's Cataclysm, right? Cataclysm revamped.
Even still, yeah, sure. But if they're going to go with the origins of the Arathi stuff and the raid was going to be with the Emperor and all that.
Basically a more fanatical version of the light.
Yes, you bring those fanatics back. That's what I'm saying. So it's going to make sense. Now, obviously, this Priory of the Sacred Flame is a no-brainer if that's going to happen. And if you think about it, it makes sense. They have to bring it. When they're going to bring it? They're not going to bring it in 10-2.
Of course. Yeah, obviously they're going to rotate. And if you look at it, it really makes sense. They really chose these dungeons deliberately. Grim Battle, for instance, it's a dungeon.
They always link some shit with those old dungeons, right?
Void-infused dwarves and void-infused dragons, right? Now we're going to the Priory of Sacred Flame with like fanatical paladins embracing the light to forcibly resurrect.
We don't know yet. We might go.
Well, they're already there in the Priory of Sacred Flame. We don't know if that's going to be the raid, but it would make sense to build up because you remember they did this in Legion as well. Whenever we had the Triumvirate dungeon from Argus, and then we had the actual Argus raid, right? So they tied these in. So obviously it could be Scarlet Monastery. What else could we have? Maybe because you know what else that just popped into my head? The other familiar face that might tie into everything that we talked about. Someone that you're expecting.
I don't know.
Irel.
Oh my god! If they were,
boy.
How would they bring that in?
I mean, if they want to make the fanatical paladin, if they want to give them like the proper due, you have to kind of put her in. I mean, we have already had the orc heritage that when we already had the Magar orc heritage, they're including the Magar into the actual culture of Warcraft. So you have to embrace alternate timeline Draenor if you're gonna embrace that culture. So you have to admit that. Okay, she still exists there. What is she doing there?
That would be very, very interesting. I would be a happy camper, but it has to make really solid sense and
hopefully
be all tied in and everything. I don't. Maybe it would be too early. Who knows? Maybe that could be like a conclusion to 11.1 or whatever. But fine, I'll take it if it's gonna be Irel.
Whatever they do.
How familiar is Irel though? That's what I'm saying. Because if you think about it, how many people do you think actually play through Warlords of Draenor? I know a lot of BFA babies here.
But if you're gonna make that point, what other familiarity will you add that people can recognize that would tie into the War Within? You think they're gonna dig up Shadowlands? Nah,
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It would have to be. It would be a culture shock if they bring Sylvanas back. In this capacity, it would be a culture shock. I'm telling you.
So I'm thinking because there's a lot of underlying themes in the War Within that have been addressed. Once again, going back to the Priory of the Sacred Flame, when you do the quest, you know that just before the last boss, there's this undead paladin. It's the brother of the dude that is the second boss of the dungeon that gets resurrected into servitude, right? It's essentially an undead brought to life. We don't know if it's a paladin. It's as close to a paladin as an undead can be. But we also have Kalia Menethil, who has been resurrected by the light. That's another familiar face that they could essentially bring in. So there's stuff that they could do. Now, I don't know what they're going to end up doing, but there's plenty of material of bad holy light, bad paladins, undead paladins being resurrected, fanatical paladins, there's all of these things that have to be part of the 11.1.
All right. Well, in that case, what do you think 11.1 would bring as a fresh new thing in terms of I don't know,
maybe a gimmick,
maybe the ring will be the continuation for that ring. Maybe something in those lines. Maybe they'll bring out some really in-depth tier set bonuses. Or maybe 11.1 would bring a totally different thing. I don't know, some sort of extra topping on top of everything we do.
That's so what the
Delves plus.
Well, since we're playing off the back of the borrow power of 11.0.7, and obviously we're gonna have to have something specific for 11.1 to be interesting to bring in the theme of the patch into the player's progression. And if it's going to be light themed, I'm thinking maybe a new style of enchants themed towards the light. Because if you think about the light buffs players, that's kind of like its main thing. Sure, you can heal, sure you can use it to deal damage, but the thing that is kind of present in all of the cinematics, all the lore, is that light makes you stronger somehow. So you can translate that into enchants, into a different way of improving the items and not actually replace items with legendary rings or other stuff.
Forged?
That is the one.
What would be the name of it?
Light chanted. Fuck, that sounds so terrible.
Light chanted. It just rolls off your tongue, doesn't it? I was thinking about something. Did they add anything extra in 10.1? I don't think so. They brought in augmentation.
That was a little bit early.
So that's the thing. Like when they put like a major new patch after the release,
the gearing system was introduced. The new gearing system.
Yeah. So it has to be something. I would be very surprised if they don't either like address some major pain point.
That we talked about last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. Or they introduce something that would solve a major pain point, or just bring on quality of life improvements on anything. Now, yes, 10.1 did bring in the new gearing system with the currencies and all that. There was also augmentation on that list. So they brought a lot. They obviously didn't have anything new to add on top of like game mechanics or borrowed power in a sense or anything like that. I doubt they would bring in a new spec because I don't see it happening nowhere. So those resources that would in the past were attributed to this thing, like the gearing system and the augmentation spec, now these resources would focus on something either new or fixing whatever the fuck is happening right now.
That is exactly what's going to happen. Because if you're going to be at least moderately charitable towards Blizzard, you know that even if they fumbled, they've been very receptive to player feedback. When people were complaining about mages being overpowered, they nerfed probably a little bit too much. The same thing happened with elemental shamans. They over-nerfed elementals. The elementals in the shitter right now.
Something is very wrong.
So it doesn't always work out, but they at least know. So you bet your butt they know about our gripe with Mythic Plus. They've been knowing that since beta, but probably didn't have time to work on it.
Listen, if there's not gonna be anything new coming in 11.1, I would be more than happy if they just ironed out and fixed the hell out of all of the pain points we have currently in the game, both in rating and in patches and in balancing and in Mythic Plus. Now, there's another reality to this whole situation with the over-nerfing, balancing, the multiple bugs, especially with 11.0.5. Like we've seen like a ton of bugs like being surfaced up, like some of them were not that prevalent, but now after 11.1.5, multiple bugs, right? So one of the reasons that has happened is because they're actually working on updating a lot of the old engine. And this was posted on the forums. It's not an excuse, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But it's like...
it's going to be an excuse, it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm just feeling like if they're finally addressing the spaghetti code that's, old as in... It's the anniversary. Like 20-year anniversary, right? They're actually starting to change that. This is what's going to happen. So it's basically a situation of like, okay, guys, we have to go through the storm in order to see the sunshine because there's going to be a lot of bugs still happening.
I mean, if you think about it to the extent that we know about game design, when it comes to a live server game, and if you want to change the foundation of it, you're not going to do that without hiccups.
It's a spaghetti code, man. It's so old. Yeah. They're finally addressing it now. That forum post actually... phrased it in the sense that I'm actually sorry I didn't catch it here, but I'm just kind of paraphrasing it. We're trying to modernize the old code to get ready for the future updates and the future of World of Warcraft, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah, that's probably gonna. I mean, we were living it. It's been happening.
Yeah, we saw it ever since the
Dragonflight.
No. Ever since the 11.1.5, the bugs, the crashes, there was. Ridiculous.
I mean, they're gearing towards
raids. There was bugs all across the board, and I can see now why this is happening because they're actually ripping out the old code and trying to modernize it, and of course you're gonna have multiple side effects.
But what I mean is they're gearing towards the future 100%, and they have been. So you can probably say that they've been gearing towards the future ever since Dragonflight, when the talents have been revamped, where the profession system has been revamped, more surface level systems that have been ingrained into the game for over a decade. the mob style talent system. So, and they're improving that, and now they keep going one level deeper. When they did the war bands, right? They completely revamped the way the database works with your character, right? Because if you think about it, all of your achievements, your reputations, your transmogs are essentially files in a database that your character has to be able to access, and not all characters can access them because they don't have the permissions. A mage doesn't have access to warrior transmogs, right? But we are seeing those barriers being reduced because they're improving the permissions or restrictions that classes have towards accessing that database, so they keep addressing underlying systems that the WoW is built upon. If you keep going deeper than that, then we end up to, you know, how combat works. Maybe that's how they came up with Plunderstorm, because we meme the Plunderstorm, and you can meme it and hate it for however much you want to, and you're justified to do that. But if you really take a look at it, the combat is 100% different than what we have right now. It's a very modern WoW, modern way of playing WoW. And obviously they don't just do that for the fun of it. They're obviously either testing certain things that they could be working on in terms of, you know, the game engine, or they're trying to see how people are receptive to new stuff, right? People weren't very receptive to that, but
no, they weren't.
But clearly people loved WoW Remix, where MoP Remix, where the whole gearing system and rating system is turned on its head, and it's like a totally different way of playing WoW. Plunderstorm, totally different way of playing WoW. They keep doing this, so it's clear that they're gearing towards. Now, whether or not we're gonna end up there, because they can always say, "Oh, it's too much. We're not gonna be able to do it. Scrap it. Let's go back to the drawing board."
Yeah, it's also a situation where, like, okay, so they're gonna announce 11.1. We're speculating the hell out of it for sure. You mentioned that, yeah, this is all in good time because the celebration is happening. One interesting thing I saw, like, I always go into the Blizzard's website on the press section and always look at the new, if they put in new assets, you know, graphical logos and stuff. What's very interesting this week, I didn't see it last week, is the RTS category has been bumped up. And no, it's still...
Don't do this to me, man. Don't do this
to me. It's been updated with the 30-year logo. And what's there is actually the old assets from Warcraft 3 Reforged. That's what you get. Now, for me, what that implies is there's also going to be some news regarding Warcraft, the RTS game. I don't know if it's going to be re-reforged, but there's definitely something happening. Now, I know not a lot of people actually care about Warcraft 3, which you should, because that is basically what gave birth to World of Warcraft.
It gave birth to the WoW that you universally loved, by the way, which is Wrath, TBC, Cataclysm, MoP.
Cataclysm, not that much. It stopped at Wrath. Yeah.
Well, Deathwing is, sure.
I mean, Deathwing is like past. I'm talking about Warcraft 3 here, okay? Because that was the botched Warcraft 3. So there was this whole data mining regarding Warcraft 3, Warcraft 3 latest PTR build that was pushed into, well, encrypted build, that all of the files over there contain a version 2.0. Now, all of the versions of the Warcraft 3, even the Reforged one, had a 1 point something number onto it. There's none 2.0. Even like if you look at the OG Warcraft 3, like the first one and Frozen Throne, there were like 1 and then 1.2 something, right?
Yeah.
Reforged was 1.3 something, right?
Yeah.
Now, this build that has been pushed onto the encrypted client is a 2.0. What the fuck does that mean? And also, I'm adding this on top of the fact that the RTS category has been bumped up into Blizzard's website assets, right? So we're going to have some news regarding Warcraft, the RTS game. Now, I've seen some wild shit talking about Warcraft 4, which I'm not going to go there. I think that's highly doubt that. However, if they're going to do a proper... Oh, I remember. There was also a survey at one point in regards to Warcraft 3 Reforged, asking people what they would like to see in a future update for the game. And there was a ton of stuff over there. Like, I don't remember all of the things, but a lot of like improved matchmaking, the new campaigns, blah, blah, a lot of things. So there was also that, I don't know, a couple of months ago. Now, adding all of this up, being the anniversary of Warcraft, so it's 30 years of Warcraft, it's 20 years of World of Warcraft. Do you believe that we're going to actually get a Warcraft 3, I don't know how else to call it, re-reforged?
Reforged, re-released.
And if that would happen, would you shit your pants?
I would.
Granted, it's going to be good.
100%. Well, see, I don't know how much you've been following the Warcraft 3 scene and the Reforged scene, because I'm a big RTS fanboy. It's like the second best gaming genre for me. They've botched a lot of the stuff with Warcraft 3 Reforged, and they have been slowly fixing it over the years, especially since Microsoft has, made the purchase. And we talked about how Microsoft likes their RTSs, how they like their releases, their remakes. I don't think it's gonna be just a boring remake. That would probably be with a very lukewarm reception, because they've already done that. Just doing it again and doing it right is not enough to make up for the disaster that Reforged was. Now, it being 2.0 or a second patch definitely brings a lot of hope that it's going to be more than just a Reforged. Like, I'm thinking maybe adding WoW races into the game or expanding on it. Like, there's for instance, I don't know if you know, but there are people that have made Warcraft 2 campaigns with the Warcraft 3 engine that play really well, and they've improved it on the story. They've added more stuff, and if somebody that is not paid can do that, I don't know if they were hired or anything, but there's potential to expand the Warcraft 3 game into incorporating parts of WoW into it, because what you want at the end of the day is you want people to play it, and people that play Warcraft right now are majority WoW players. How do you get WoW players to play Warcraft 3? Well, you kind of have to make it closer to WoW as you can. Whatever they choose to do, add more races, add more campaigns, add whatever connections of play Warcraft, you get this mount in WoW or whatever, which is like the basic stuff.
Oh, they're going to do a lot of tie-ins with the live game for sure. Listen, man, I would be happy and satisfied if they just relaunch this remake of the game properly. If they keep to their word and actually get rid of those god-awful graphics, put something like you did with StarCraft remaster. If they're gonna like actually remake the cinematics like they did with Diablo 2 Resurrected, right? Like make something that's like, if you want to retain the nostalgia and have it, give proper accolades to this legendary game, because at this point you can call it a legendary game, Warcraft 3.
Yeah, for sure.
I would be happy if they just relaunched it in the proper state it needed to launch in the first place, because it was a mockery what they did with it. It was like, just this pissing all over the legacy of that game, right? So I tried so many times to like play the game with the updated graphics. Man, it's so cringe. And oh my god, that cinematic between Illidan and Arthas, that one that was remade,
I couldn't even get that far.
Dude, like, I think I could have done better in WoW Model Viewer or something. Yeah. That was ridiculous. So I'm expecting that to happen at the very least. I would be satisfied with that.
You know what's making me excited right about now? It's a picture of your mom, but also when you and one of our friends, Matt, said something that kind of rose some questions in my head, that Chris Metzen wasn't really that involved in War Within. And after you said that, and after Matt said that, I was like, a part of me was like, what has he been doing then? Sure, of course, he's been working on the World Soul Saga, but
he has been in the War Within, and we're gonna see. We
know he's in charge of the Warcraft franchise, and not just WoW. I'm thinking maybe from reshooting some lines in Warcraft 3 for Thrall and other characters,
could definitely happen,
to expanding Warcraft 3 with new voice lines. That's just Metzen, or maybe not just voice lines, but maybe Metzen is in charge of expanding the Warcraft 3 or the Warcraft IP, obviously into more games, but maybe having a bigger influence as to what the Warcraft 3 2.0 will be with Metzen on board. I have a feeling that there's a lot of stuff that doesn't really make sense. Like, what has he been doing all this time?
Let me just kill your enthusiasm. So first of all,
Chris
Metzen is in the creative director for World of Warcraft. He's not. He's not in just World of Warcraft. That's one thing. Second, he has been involved with the War Within, but he joined when a lot of it was already done. Where we're going to see his involvement in War Within is going to be probably from 11.1 forward. Okay?
Sure.
So what we've seen up until this point is not Metzen almost at all. What I will point out to you on this poster of the 30th anniversary of Warcraft and 20th of World of Warcraft is the characters here. Now, obviously, you see a lot of Hearthstone over there. You see the Lich King. You see Deathwing, being all of that. But what do you notice about Jaina? And this is not Jaina from Hearthstone.
It's so tiny.
Yeah. I can tell you. So it's Jaina with the armor from Warcraft 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So just confirmation, and alongside
that's not even everything. Like Thrall is mounted, Tyrande is mounted. Obviously, they're the Warcraft 3 versions of themselves.
Yeah, why would they put that on the anniversary?
Because clearly, Warcraft 3 is going to be a big feature.
Exactly. So, I'm not saying, Metzen will not re-record some voices for it over there. That's fine. He did that when he was not working with Blizzard anymore. That's fine. I highly doubt he would be involved in any capacity with the RTS game, story-wise or whatever, because he's like the director, the creative director for World of Warcraft. He has a lot on his plate over there. And judging by why he left the company in the first place, he was just juggling too many plates at one time.
Fair enough.
This is what got him to be like burned out and got him into medical issues and stuff, because he was doing a lot of things. So I think his focus is just on WoW, the World Soul Saga.
All right.
Maybe if they do actually decide to re-release Warcraft in the Warcraft 3 in a proper manner, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of future opportunities for him to get involved in that as well. But I don't see it happening now.
That's fine. I mean, even if they do release Warcraft 3, at the very least, what they could do is take a page out of the book of StarCraft 2, where they added commander missions, where they added.
I would love that. Take my money.
So
now.
Definitely they can do that. It just dawned on my mind right now, because there's a lot of cool stuff in StarCraft that they kind of flopped and not continued with, because they added those commanders behind the price tag.
They didn't sell well for Bobby. No.
But there's a lot of it's a lot of potential content that they can do with Warcraft that would appeal to non-RTS players, right? Because it's a little bit RTSy, but it's not that RTSy, like micromanaging all the units, building up that army, crushing your opponents, and so on and so forth. So there is potential there, but now I feel like I'm just getting overly excited on my own, just like I did this morning. So it's a little bit too much, but there's I cannot wait, man. What is it? 2 more weeks?
Yeah, in 2 weeks we're gonna find out everything about it. So there has to be a lot of the good stuff. 11.1 big patch announcement and all of that. Probably a nice trailer to go along with it. Explain. We're gonna have Ian over there, Morgan Day, everybody just talking about new systems coming up, and hopefully they're gonna address all of the problems we have currently with the gameplay loop we're playing with Mythic Plus and all of that, the bugs, but also being the replacement for BlizzCon, basically, with this Warcraft Direct, for at least the replacement for BlizzCon when it comes to announcement in terms of the Warcraft franchise. They're gonna announce shit for Hearthstone too, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean,
Warcraft Rumble, all of those things. So it's basically an anniversary for Warcraft, but this is the replacement of what we would have had if there was a BlizzCon this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has to be something big, I would imagine, because they do want to raise the hype up, I guess. Speaking on World of Warcraft now, obviously the passion has died down a bit. We have to face it, okay? The honeymoon phase is now. We still love playing the game as always. A lot of folks.
The anniversary kind of revitalized a little bit, but
not initially. When the anniversary came through, oh my god, right? Even those atrocious 1 bronze token if you do this. I'm so glad they fixed it and just buffed the bronze tokens all over the place, because it felt ridiculous. It felt like, okay, now you have to do the chores daily. I got that slight feeling of Torghast, do your things daily to get this, and it's for cosmetics, obviously. But I feel like those rewards were so low. Now they fixed it, which is good. Okay, but regarding how they approach revitalizing interest and joy for the game. You still will have your core player base who will do their dungeons, progress, their mythic rating, all of that stuff.
Sure.
But even those at some point, and we're talking about us now, right, get a little bit burned out after a while.
Yeah.
So there was always BlizzCon for that. There was always that, oh my God, did you see that? You see the new patch? And that brings you this sort of fresh new
drive to play the game.
You definitely want to play it. You have that carrot on the stick, basically, all right? So it has to have something in regards to that. If they put 11.1 with the us being taken over to the Arathi Empire, man, I'll lose my marbles, man. If they actually do that, speculative, I know, but that would, I think, again, I'm basing this on the feedback that a lot of people love the Hollowfall Zone. Okay, so the aesthetics would be there, but obviously much more developed and much more expanded. I think it would be such a win, and I think it would once again hype people up because hey, we're going into this big empire, and I would love for them to like actually present it and build it as it would look as an empire and not, you know, oh, just not
they
own
just
a
have
couple
like
of houses.
a big little castle in the middle.
Yeah, fuck that. No, exactly. Yeah, a couple of farms over here, like a shack. Like, come on, visit the shack.
You remember when you made those farms in Warcraft 3? Yeah, those are those. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so that would definitely bring up the hype levels to a decent degree once more, right? And being a patch where probably you will not have like any new systems, or if you do, they would not be that resource consuming. One of the other big W's would actually be to just fix everything that felt wrong in the world we're in currently.
There's plenty of stuff that they can still do, and you bet your butt that at one point during this expansion we're gonna have an upgrade to the hero talents one way or another. Either it's visually, either it's fully reworked, either it's I know they're gonna do it because we've exhausted what the hero talents do already in the first month. Like, we're not even talking about us being on beta, but now that they're reworking, like you look at what is it? Mage, it's a good example for me because both Fire and Arcane have played Sun Fury, and now we're playing Spellslinger on Arcane, and after playing a week of Spellslinger, it's like, oh, okay, there's nothing else here. It's just the same old, right? And you don't want people to be apathetic about your, you know, your hook, your little poster selling point of the expansion, which are the hero talents. You definitely want them to be excited. And we know from BFA, whenever they did this, they've improved on the Azerite, eventually transforming them into essences.
Hey, listen, we also know from Ian that they could expand on the hero talents. Yes.
Oh, well.
Yes, that may as well happen. Who knows? I'm expecting some reworks, to be fair.
That's the baseline, though.
Like, I can still live with the hero talents right now, but I feel like a lot of specs need proper reworks.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I want this. I mean, I'm not sorry I want this. They basically trained me to expect this ever since the Red Paladin rework. And then we had a lot of reworks constantly coming through. So they kind of made this a thing. Yeah. So we have to expect it.
So it's kind of like in the same bucket with Mythic Plus being a problem, gearing being a problem, class design in certain aspects is still a problem. Like, if you don't play Druid, you don't know how terrible the class talent are. If you don't play Hunter, you don't know how still boring Pack Leader is, and it's atrocious. Like, I don't know how boring Sand Lane is, because I know Rider is pretty interesting, but playing Frost Decay, Deathbringer is really cool. Rider is really cool as well. But when I go back to other classes, dude, am I playing the same video game?
Yeah, you feel this discrepancy.
So you cannot have that. You cannot have people be apathetic about the system that you're trying to sell to them. So obviously that's going to be improved, either for full reworks, which we can probably expect, or even upgrades. Like, if we went in BFA from shitty Azerite traits to essences to corruptions, that level of progression, we can at least expect some upgrade to the hero talents. I don't know what that's going to be, but you can bet your butt it's going to be at least one.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, you cannot not notice the discrepancy in design of a couple of these specs in terms of talents and hero talents, and there's probably going to be a lot of these things addressed in 11.1 as well. I've seen a couple of people like praising 8.3. We loved 8.3 in BFA. You mentioned it here as well.
In the end, because people still don't remember how it was.
Yeah, people always remember the good parts. Yeah, I know. But speaking of borrowed power, what would you think would be the chances of actually us getting some sort of like crazy item that would be very similar to like the
accepting
corruptions?
The ring?
Except in the ring. No.
They're selling it as a more evergreen system.
Yeah, no, I mean, not necessarily evergreen system. Their wording was a lead way into the new season.
That's why I said about the light enchantment things, because that's what corruptions were, right? They were enchanting items. I don't think we're ever going to go back into a world where they're taking an item out of our item pool and giving us this one thing, like we had with artifact weapons in Legion. I don't think we're going to go back there where, oh, you never have to loot a weapon ever again in an expansion. That was fun for one expansion, but people were like, dude, I want to loot a new sword. I want to loot a new mace, right? You never got excited about that.
Yeah.
So whatever borrow power they're gonna do, it's either gonna be a trinket or it's gonna be hopefully a more interesting way of approaching gearing. Maybe it can be an enchant. I said enchant.
I want corruptions back.
Corruption, sure. Light forged pants. 10% chance to call down a final reckoning as a arms warrior, right? Yeah, you just Final Reckoning. Everybody takes more holy damage, right?
That would be crazy. I think like the Kiss Curse experiment they did with corruptions
was interesting.
It was interesting, and didn't that trend started in the Crucible of Storm raid?
Yes.
There weren't a couple of items there that were Kiss Cursey, right? And then they gone full out in 8.3. Yeah.
There was a loot table of about, I think, 4 or 5 items, and there were these, and they all came, I think, with a eye level difference from the Battle of the Zara lore. I think they were a 9 level bracket lower, but their procs were stronger. So you would eventually want those to farm them from away. And we didn't touch on this as well, but I don't know if you've done the Blackrock Deaths raid.
I did it on LFR to get my bronze.
Yeah. But what actually surprised me is how they could actually create new raid encounters in a very tiny 0.5 patch, and people have been asking for mini raids for a while. Now, I'm not saying that we're gonna have, because mini raids are a controversial thing, because think about it this way: we're progressing over next right now. What if with 11.05 they've released a mini raid? What do? Are we gonna keep progressing over next? Are we gonna go back to the mini raid? Do we split knights? Do we add more raid knights? They definitely don't want to do this, because we know that most of the devs are high-end players, or some of the devs are high-end players, so they are familiar with with this thing. But if they do something lighthearted, like a Blackrock raid, which you can farm for cosmetics and stuff like that, and has some moderate player power there as well, that could be interesting. Because the circlet, the ringy thing, I keep wanting to point to flip the camera off, but I'm raised better than that.
Control yourself.
That's not it. That sounds boring so far. It depends on how they implement it. So they've done really good on certain aspects in the past. I hope they take a page out of that and just build on.
In terms of like a mini raid, they could do that once again, but they would have to tone down the actual big raids, because raids I feel got significantly more complicated and harder over designed tier by tier, and obviously except like the 10% or whatever, 100, the top 100 guilds, you're gonna have a lot of guilds progressing way further into the months. Now, if you're gonna have a raid that I'm not saying like mechanically they're very hard. I'm saying the tuning of them, because they keep on nerfing them week by week on like it's ridiculous. So they never tend to get the tuning as well as they did in the past. So when you had your Crucible of Storms, what was it? It was still Old Deer. It was the gap between
No, it was Battle for the Zara. It was the Jaina raid of.
Okay, so Battle for the Zara to the Nazjatar raid, right? So, and Battle for the Zala was like one of the most amazing raids.
Probably still to this day one of my favorite raids.
Yeah, but I feel like I don't remember exactly, but I think like for the most part they haven't they nerfed it quite a couple of times, but it wasn't as prolonged. It wasn't as hard nerfed as raids that came after this.
This is an interesting discussion, because we actually had the discussion with Ian, if you remember. They have to make the raid a little bit harder for the race world first, because it would be weird if it ended up really quick. And I think what they're doing right now with the Nerubian Finery is a very good alternative towards not nerfing it every week, because then it feels like, what are we playing anymore? Every week we get like a 1% buff thing. It kind of hurts the gamer pride, because like, dude, I kind of want to not feel like I have to have this extra crutch to kill the boss, because the challenge is in defeating the boss. But if you're gonna be real with yourself, you when you kill a boss as an average raider, whether it's a mythic raider, heroic raider, or normal raider, the chances are you're fighting a nerfed version of that boss as opposed to how it was at the release.
All I'm saying is when the race to war first ends, and you have like again your top 10 guilds, or let's say top 50 guilds already, just kick it off with the nerfs, like much more hardcore, because they did that in the past and they allowed themselves to have. I felt like Crucible of Storms was actually a really cool raid, and if you remember, it was one of the hardest, if not the hardest. It was harder.
The problem was with Crucible that was harder than
the time gap between the patches.
So it was. I recall, because I think it was a discussion between Method and was it Limit at the time? It was not Liquid at the time. Whether or not they should progress through Crucible, but they were very short after the Zara lore, and they were kind of prepping for Nazjatar, and it would require too much work to get into, and the reward was not the same. And I think the raid was overtuned at the beginning. Before everybody got in. So it was that kind of a discussion, and I'm 100% sure that they're not going to repeat that. Now, in terms of difficulty, I feel like we're on a cusp of some changes. I think ever since ever since probably Aberrus, whenever they introduced private auras, they've seen how complex fights can affect the player base. We never got to Echo of Neltharius, if you remember, with the walls. People were using weak auras upon weak auras to kind of split the room in zones and see like on your screen where you need to go. Like that's already mind fuckery. It's too much. Exactly. And look what we're doing right now with Overnax. We have weak auras upon weak auras to show which one needs to kick. It's
a little bit too much.
It's too much. It's not about being difficulty or not. It's just like, what are we doing right now? We need add-on upon add-on to kind of make this encounter playable. That's a little bit too much. So we're hopefully they're looking at all of this, not to mention the frame drop issues, not to mention the...
That's also because of the code thing.
Yeah. So hopefully we can slowly move into a world where the fights are a little bit less over-designed. Maybe they require fewer external sources to actually fight. Maybe this is why they're doing all of this, to kind of make weak auras harder to use, to kind of make DBMs harder to use so that you can actually play the game. But it's kind of working against their philosophy because it just makes the fight way harder.
Way harder and... to some people actually unreachable because these private auras, the situations like what was it? It was Smolderon, where my God, the amount of tech you had to work with to do those balls, incredible. But this is because of private auras. And at what point do we just stop it with this overly complicating this end game content? Because I would be very curious to see the percentages they have access to Blizzard. How many players actually do play these bosses and engage with this content?
True. Like, I mean, we've done our Asmongold video back in the day, and in that video, I did some research where I pulled off, I think, from WoW progress and from Warcraft logs, the amount of times, and Bellular used to do this as well. I don't know if he still does it, where he looks at how many guilds have cleared certain bosses and kind of compare between patches. The amount of people that have cleared Mythic Amirdrasil was staggering low compared to everything else in a patch where we haven't seen that many people play WoW in years. So that was a very popular patch, 10.2, Season 3, where we've seen for at least after years of looking at logs of doing tier lists and all that.
Yeah, we've seen the biggest logs to date.
The most amount of logs.
For a long time.
Now it's even more than that. Like last week, I think, remember I told you we broke the 1 million parses in Mythic Plus for 2 specs.
All right.
In 10.2 was just Red Paladin. Like the second one was like 800,000. Now Red Paladins and Resto Shamans have broken over 1 million parses in a month and a half of the patch or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, so
it's pretty good. WoW is pretty good, but it's still, it still needs proper looking at.
Yeah, looking at D-Root, I'm not saying that they need to stop making raids hard. That's not the point. It's just a question on where does the overly complicated mechanics and private auras need to stop. This is what I'm saying, because they're going to make the raids super hard, especially week 1, week 2, probably week 3, because first Ian admitted that. Okay, so that's no surprise. The question is like, okay, out of all of that almost impossible situation for like the rest of us, where do you draw the line? Where do you start like giga nerfing or giga toning down all of these mechanics to actually have, the general player base? Like, what do you care most about? Do you care most about your top, 10% of the player base, or do you go for the actual like giga player base, and I'm not talking about, the normal raid people or whatever. So the general semi-competitive player, like me, like Flame, like a lot of people watching the stream, right? Which, I mean, sure, everybody likes a challenge, but at some point it becomes very tiring, right? It becomes, you feel it's like overly complicated for no reason. And yes, I agree, like they like super good raids. But
it becomes a little bit exhausting to play WoW. And we've seen that whenever they've went a more lighthearted way of designing WoW, more people engage with it. WoW has never been a difficult game. That's not what made it popular. That's not what made it the most played game in the world for a long time. Actually, a cultural phenomenon, because it was hard. And we always have because I was once a part of that. I don't know about you, but oh my god, they just made this class easier again. Oh, now it's brain dead. Now it's not what it used to be like. And we probably know this about Red Paladin, right?
It's kind of the Red Paladin situation.
So we're part in that. Like, okay, don't make this too simple, right? Don't make this into a Hello Kitty jigsaw puzzle. But at least give us some way of getting engaged with the content. Because at the end of the day, what is more fun? Getting that 639 atom level loot or getting a 620 atom level loot but with 5 friends next to you. Because if you're going to be honest, not everybody plays WoW at the same level. The harder you make it, the less likely you are to be playing with your friends, with people that you enjoy playing, or with just more people in general. Because the higher you go into the endgame content, the harder it is to find people to do that content with. And you end up trying to queue for dungeons and waiting 30 minutes because that's just what it is. And this is not anything new. We've known this in PvP. It used to be that way in WoW, and it's probably still is. We know from games like League of Legends and StarCraft 2 and whatever, you have this ladder of this is where the top is and this is where you are. The higher you go, the longer the fewer people you have to play with. So it becomes like, okay, how many people do we want to play WoW?
Well, this is also Arja made a good point. The situation regarding raids being hard. Okay, make them hard, but make your game actually playable. Because you're gonna have
when we get to this point, hard is like a secondary thing. Just if you cannot play the game.
We all play the game on rigs that can do 4K, AAA modern gaming, right? When it comes to World of Warcraft, and you're gonna have the hardest mechanics or in the raids ever in the world. And you have frame drops and just because of the million things that are happening, you cannot actually execute those, then you're going to have a problem. Sure, people are talking about, Karen is talking about add-ons being a problem. We had videos about this. Yeah.
That's what we've been talking about, them kind of going back to fix the spaghetti code, because we come back to Plunderstorm once again. Remember, Plunderstorm is a battleground with 40 people all shooting spell effects left and right.
3 abilities.
Yeah,
4 abilities.
But the abilities have a lot of effects. They're very flashy, and they're all happening at once. No, there's no sharding going on. There's no regions in servers. Everybody's packed into this one zone. If you translate that into WoW, obviously, it would be terrible because you would just crash everybody. But that's what I mean. Take it down a peg with the I'm shooting an orb, but it does 17 procs with 12 other spells, and you can see the animations all over the screen, but that person can see 70%, that person can see 60%, and that person cannot see anything because it's on a different shard. It's what the?
When that's happening while all of those mechanics in the raid are happening as well, like a million different abilities popping, cheesing, poisoning, interrupting, stunning, puddle over here, puddle over there, break that, teleport there. It's all happening at the same time. And at some point, you're going to have frame drops and crashes.
The spaghetti's going to crash. This is going to break. And
it's true. The PTR release date is today. So sometime today is going to be on the PTR.
Yeah. Should be up. We don't know when the patch is. I don't think they've announced the patch release. It's probably in a month because
he was asking about the PTR.
Yeah. But I know some people were asking about. Usually patches come a month after PTR testing, a month and a half at the very most. Yeah. So it's probably going to be before Christmas.
Oh yeah, for sure it's going to be before Christmas. They want that content.
that little money. You see that Brutosaur mount? You better. Or is it going to be there?
I don't know how much a 0.7 patch is going to bring people back to the game.
No.
But I think I feel like always these 0.5 and 0.7 patches are actually made for to
retain the players,
the actual existing players, right? Release date on the Warcraft Live, that is going to be on the 13th of November.
13th, not 14th. Okay, 13th is on Wednesday.
Yeah,
well, all right.
Reset day. So that's also interesting, but because who knows? Maybe they're gonna announce 11.1. Hey guys, PTR is gonna be here.
Interesting. There was thinking about whether or not we should do a watch party for the Warcraft Direct, but
we'll see. We'll definitely make a lot of videos for it. That's for them, sure. But once again, there's plenty happening, and I do understand and sympathize with the people complaining about 11.05 and the bugs and all of that. I also I respect their transparency, going on and telling, listen, guys, we're fucking up the code basically now, so it's going to be rough. Listen, if you're going to admit to that and you're going to live up to that and expect a bumpy ride, I can respect it, if that is for the greater good.
Okay, but point to yours, just to kind of wrap it on that particular category. Even though it's not an excuse, but what if I told you you could get war bands, but you had to suffer through the pre-patch launch event bugs?
Would you?
Now, when you have the power of hindsight, knowing how good war bands are and knowing how shit the pre-patch was, if I tell you, it's like, look, I can do.
They cannot get you. They cannot make a habit out of this.
Oh no, of course. Right? But if it's like dude, I don't know how we do this. Is the only way we can either have it next month or have it in 5 years.
I think the warband situation was much more a lack of testing and poor implementation as opposed to like actually.
I don't know if they can even test it, because where would you test that, on the beta servers with like 20 people when you have millions?
They have their people. They have, there's a thing.
Servers.
I don't know if it's still there, but they used to have a QA department, and I know a lot of people got laid off from that QA department, and that's a shame.
That's definitely a problem.
Because they were doing God's work over there. So if that is not there anymore, then you're gonna have situations like what we have with the pre-patch. But
sure. What I'm saying is that all of these don't just happen because, this is just how the state of WoW is now. No, they're happening because they're fiddling with a bunch of stuff that hopefully is going to make the game better. Because warbands definitely made the game better.
Yeah, but borrowed power is back on the table.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Well, listen, it's fine as long as it's interesting. That's what I care about. Because at the end of the day, we can unpack this in however many ethical ways you want. You don't care if it's borrowed power or Stormount. You care if the game is fun. If the game is fun and it's interesting and it's worth your time, they can do whatever. So hopefully they just implement this right.
Yeah, 8.3 was a fun patch at the end of it. It was a fun patch.
At the beginning, I liked seeing people die in one-shots in arenas from infinite stars. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, but seriously though, like when 8.3 launched, the amount of like grind you had to do to get to specific things was atrocious, and it was killing all of your soul. Basically.
That's the grind. It was the overpowered corruptions that were like, oh my God, your class doesn't exist. You're just your corruption now. No. That was them not working properly. That was them only happening to some people. Like I remember when we were progressing through Nyalotha on my Blood Decay, I got Echoing Void rank 2 on an item. That was very lucky. That was when they were nerfing Twilight Devastation and Infinite Stars, and that was very strong. And I was like, oh, this is going to be next on the list, because I was getting 100% parses consistently on every boss they were fighting. And it was like 80% of my damage. So like stuff, and it was the same with Legion whenever they released the artifact weapons. Like the beginning parts is always messy. I don't know if there's a live service game that can impact the gameplay that much and not have issues. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like 8.3 was a very fun fight, but once again at the end tail of it, when you actually had less to like grind for and get some targeted, even that I remember very, very vividly. Even the catch-up system was like very convoluted, but it was still better, right? So overall, yes, that was an example of, in the end, good borrowed power, but initially very poorly implemented and had you feel like a hamster in an unending wheel and with unending carrots dangling in front of your eyes, which is
blood of the enemy essence behind 100 battlegrounds.
Oh yeah, that was a beauty.
Yeah, we remember.
But that was the thing, right? Because 8.3 was basically you had the corruptions, you had the essences, and you had the Azerite traits as well. So you had like the complete circle. And
still, it wasn't as laggy as it is today. With true. 3 layers of multiplicative borrow powers. All right.
Yeah. Plunderstorm 2.0. Can we have another content creator event? That was great. It was a great event, not for Flame. That
was so weird.
I mean, it was fun. I don't think you're gonna do another event because they did that just to like pump. That was the first major off the grid content they did, right? So I don't think they're gonna have that, but probably some tournaments or something. They're probably gonna do something like that, but not on the scope they did.
Where Zarya and Peekaboo are gonna farm 38 unsuspecting souls.
Those guys will need to be banned for any type of tournament like that, right? So yeah, that's gonna be cool if it's gonna happen. No, I'm expecting an event next year, probably BlizzCon. So that's what I'm expecting.
We'll see how they play out.
All right, are we wrapping it up? Because we have covered everything that has needed to be covered.
Pretty much, it's been an exciting couple of days. I mean, it's all about to be really good or really
bad.
So it's that calm before the storm is like, what's gonna happen? Tune in next week at the weekly WoW wrap-up show. Well, in 2 weeks in this case, we'll see exactly how they
we're gonna have a show next week.
No, for sure.
I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of PTR stuff to be discussed regarding 11.8.7, and the week after that, we're definitely gonna have the Warcraft Direct information. And boy, what a time to be alive in 2 weeks, because there's going to be lots
after
of
that
cool
doesn't
stuff.
really matter, but in 2 weeks, be alive.
Yeah, be alive. All right. So thank you everybody for joining, for commenting, for all of the good words, all the questions and all of that. We shall catch you next week. Tomorrow Flame is streaming. What are you streaming tomorrow, man?
I have to catch up on the schedule.
What is tomorrow? God damn it.
Gearing needs to change because I have played my Frost Decay today and it's still needing gear, and it's atrocious, looting 3 necklaces one after the other.
Maybe we can make a video on that as well. It's not like we make like 3 videos regarding gearing.
It's the monthly Marcelian video on why the gearing sucks. It's about that time.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day, evening, morning, whatever. All right. Catch you next week.
Love you all. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Button. I hate that you still hear you see that shit. Just close it so I can see.
You can